Hello and welcome back to Far Beyond the World. We will be continuing where we left off, which, if you recall, is at the name tree. And after we went to the villa to get big box of gold. And yeah, so let's continue and get down to what you guys were waiting to see. We're here, he says in a hushed voice as he brushes aside the last bushes with his paw. I stop dead in my tracks, with jaw dropping to my chest as I look upon his very own name tree. Oh, oh my. Is that? I ask out of courtesy than anything else, as the chiseled name in the trunk leaves no doubt what I'm actually looking at. Mm-hmm. The wolf nods, watching happily as I drop my backpack and take shaky, humble steps towards the tree. I don't know why, but I'm suddenly overtaken by a powerful emotion, almost as if I could sense the spiritual link between the tree and my wolf. It fills me with the same feeling of calm as he does, almost as if Ranok's presence emanated from within. I dare not touch it, stopping mere inches from the bark and lowering my gaze in reverence. That's when I notice the ground beneath it, with roots burrowing through the earth on each side. Is this where... Yes. He precedes my question with an answer, walking up beside me. You lied at this very spot. In all fairness, seeing you standing here now feels almost surreal. It seems like a dream. I can relate to that. I smile weakly, looking at his loveful muzzle. Although I don't remember any of this, somehow, I feel like I've been here before. I feel safe here and at peace. I'm glad to hear it. I feel the same, and that is why I always come here to meditate. I look back to the grass beneath my feet and crouch, reaching to the blades with my hands. For some reason, I thought there'd still be blood here. I mutter, noticing nothing of the sort. It's been 2 weeks since, and it rained, remember? He snorts, approaching me with amusement. What wasn't washed out, the animals took care of. It's so strange standing here after all that's happened. It is beautiful, though, growing tall and strong just as its namesake. I look up to the towering crown above us, and we both smile at the gentle rustle of leaves. This place even smells like him. Would you mind if... I ask, gesturing towards the tree with my hand, and he shakes his head. Not at all. At first, I'm reluctant to touch it, almost like a pilgrim reluctant to touch a holy relic. But eventually my veneration turns into a desperate need for affirmation. But when my hands connect with the hard bark, I feel as if I was thrown down the well. I almost hear the thunderous sound of my plunge into that murky grave. Disturbed by my fall, the water grows dark and thick. All of a sudden, I'm back into the nothingness. A chill runs down my body, as if I were laid down on ice. Breathing comes hard, and then it comes to a stop. Everything's gone and I want to scream, but I no longer have control of my body. Not again. Then my eyes open, but not really. Those are not my eyes. I watch like a person in a drive-in theater watches a movie. The eyes open and they see the tree, but only for a moment. Darkness claims everything once more, and it takes a while until they open again. I'm almost out of breath, submerged in this void. Suddenly my lungs expand as if allowed to take one desperate gust of air, and I hear choking as the eyes blink in the light. I see my wolf standing above me. He's startled, panicked even, blood covering his paws. By the moon! You are alive! Ranok. I hear a voice utter his name. It's my voice. What? Who are you? What happened? The memory of our first encounter returns to me. He was telling the truth, not that I ever doubted him. I looked at him and uttered his name. And that's when the darkness returns one last time. I'm reliving that moment almost as if the tree showed it to me, and I'm immediately reminded of the dear druid. Finally, the spell is lifted and I can hear the forest and the birds once again. I open my eyes, my own eyes this time. I can see his name carved into the bark. It's the first time I see it. I've never seen it before. I witnessed my glimpse of awareness before I woke up in the cabin. Laying there, in the grass, I couldn't have seen it. It's fate. Whatever brought me here placed me in his care, and I knew it from the very first day. That's why I felt so oddly at peace with him. That's why we formed such a strong connection. Your name is really pretty. It rolls off my tongue as if I knew it forever. I stated, trying to contain the emotional torrent erupting deep inside of me. I can almost imagine you carving the name here. I mutter, tracing the etching with my fingers. How did you end up with it, if you don't mind me asking? Was it your choice? Yes, it was. The wolf nods. What does it mean? A wolf should never reveal his pup name, nor a reason for his choice of an adult name. Seriously? I gasp in amazement at the secrecy of it all, but at the same time, carrying a few secrets of my own, I can definitely understand this. But there is a reason, right? There is. An embarrassing one, but there is. He mumbles awkwardly, shuffling the grass beneath his paws and looking away. And you're not gonna tell me? Maybe one day, but not today. I finish for him with a gentle smile. I won't be the one to pry. Fine. I sigh, closing my eyes and taking a deep breath while stretching my arms out. As Verissa once told me, all good things come in time. I'm glad you brought me here. His muzzle lights up and his tail wags at that comment while I continue exploring the area. What's this? I ask as I stumble across a small stone structure. It almost looks like some sort of garden lantern. Ah, it's a fae shrine, he says in a slightly wary tone. My mother was a bit superstitious. She had it commissioned upon my birth. Superstitious? I ask, not sure what that really means for a magic-wary, otherworldly wolven society. She followed the old ways. I'm told she used to light a light here every day, asking the forest spirits to look over me. That's really sweet. I smile, clasping my hands together, looking at this token of her devotion. Do you continue doing that? And what, leave an unattended fire next to my name tree? The wolf snorts dismissively. I doubt a small candle could burn down the forest. You'd be surprised. Either way, your mom seems quite a character. I'd love to learn more about her. I say absent-mindedly, only to notice Ranok's entire posture to deflate. Fuck. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. No, it's fine. The wolf sighs, lowering his head in defeat. I don't have much to share, I'm afraid. Father doesn't talk about Mom, but what I gathered from the others, he did the one thing a wolf is never meant to do during his, first time. Which is... He fell madly in love. They both did. He scoffs in amusement and I smile. To many, it seemed almost obscene, but they didn't care. All they wanted is to be together. That's why she stayed so long after your birth, isn't it? I made an educated guess. Do you know what happened to her? That question seems to really set him up into high alert and the wolf perks up. I really don't want to talk about that. Sorry. No, it's me who's sorry. I should have guessed it's too personal for you to talk. It's not that. Ranok cuts me off, placing his paw heavy on my shoulder and lifting my chin with the other. There's a lot of things I want to talk about, but we only have so little time. I don't want to waste it lingering in the past, when I can enjoy the present with you. Same To be fair, I say, stepping closer to him and snuggling into his muscular arm. Thank you again for bringing me here. I wanted to see this place for quite a while now. The tree is really beautiful, although a bit bigger than I expected. Oh? He looks to me with confusion and then darts his gaze towards the tree. An involuntary smile appears on my face as he tilts his head in that typical canine fashion while scrutinizing it. I mean, it is around 22 years old. Then again, the name trees aren't really regular trees. Apparently, there's some Sylvan magic involved, some remnant of the old ways. He looks to me with a troubled gaze at his muddled explanation. I guessed as much. I nod in agreement. I wouldn't mind learning more about that, to be fair. What, the old ways? That's something you're gonna have to investigate without me. Why, is that another of you'll be killed if you... No! My tease is cut by his frantically shaking paws. I simply haven't got a clue about all of that. My father decriminalized Sylvan practices. To the horror of the elders. I jest, but he sighs heavily. Not exactly a laughing matter. He was nearly killed for it. What? I gasp in shock, and he looks back towards the tree. It was a very unpopular move. I think he did it because Mom was a believer. One of the alphas challenged him to a duel and lost. My father showed mercy, but the male was a bitter loser. During the following feast, he tried to assassinate him with a javelin. Father got pinned to his own chair. He nearly lost his life then. The scar on the chest? I conclude, grasping at my lips. It's pretty much the shape and size of what a javelin wound would look like. That's when Vitrir rushed in and ripped the honorless traitor's throat wide open with his own fangs. After that, there was a massive purge. He and Dad banished all the malcontents to the outer packs, allowing only trusted wolves to remain within the village. Is that the dirt the elders have on him? Dirt? The wolf blinks at me in confusion and I sigh internally. I guess I won't let him relax on this trip. I decide to share with him what I overheard at the villa, the threats and the shouting sprees, but to my surprise, Ranok takes it all awfully well. It's been like that ever since I can remember. Father's transition to power wasn't exactly peaceful. The assassination attempt was a last tremor of a far worse time, but... I can see him divert his gaze and nudging me into a slow gait. I really don't want to talk about politics, my past, or anything other that could drag our mood down. Here. He stops for a moment to look back at the tree one last time. I join his locked gaze with mine. Here is where my future unfolded, and finally, I have made it flesh, standing beside me. What I want now is to simply look forward and enjoy the time we're given. Amen. I nod happily, almost tearing up at his sweet testimonial. I'm sorry for being such a killjoy. It's fine, I've grown accustomed to your empty mind wandering off. You have a lot of questions and simply want answers. There's a time and a place for everything. My place right now is at your side, and the time for us is to simply relax and take in our cross-country trip. I pick up our luggage and again wrap myself around his arm as we proceed to leave the place with subtle smiles. The road winds lazily through many overgrown knolls and mounds, the trees flanking the path looking older and wider, eager to reclaim the strip of land, cutting their realm in half. Now and then my feet stumble, drawing wary gazes from the wolf, but I muster all my strength not to falter. Hours go by, and my resolve dwindles, stifled by the feeling of utter helplessness, as the scenery seems not to change much at all. It seems as if we were barely moving, but Ranok spurs me on, giving encouragements every time I'm about to surrender. The backpack weighs heavily on my shoulders. The merry clanging of the pan and pot now seems more like mockery. Why did we take all of this stuff? But each time I feel a complaint dangling at the edge of my tongue, my eyes dart to the wolf. Heavily armored, and with his massive longsword, he still carries the unimaginable load of gold on his side in silence. I will not insult him by whining, so I resign myself to silent endurance. I have little strength to talk, but that gives me plenty of time to think. My mind mostly strays to the uncanny room I escaped tonight. The world I left behind now, like a dream or a childish flight of fancy. But it is real as the world I'm walking in right now. At least, I like to think that. The sun twinkles between the leaves of the woodland canopy, and I wish we were more out in the open. In summer, the shade would provide a much needed respite from the heat, but now, in the last cusps of winter, the harsh, cold breeze serves only a reminder of how little I'm wearing. I pull the cloak tighter around me and continue following the sun with my eyes. Shortly past noon, we stop at the side of the road, and I drop the backpack to the ground with a loud gasp of relief. The wolf looks at me with an empathic smile and hands me the water skin. I uncork it and take several deep gulps, not minding the fact that some of the cool liquid trickles down my chin. God, I needed that. I exhale, drawing a subtle chuckle from him. Well, we've covered 8 miles. Is that bad or good? Neither this nor that. He shrugs, taking his turn with the drink. But we've been walking for just 4 hours, so... It felt like forever. I groan, slumping down onto the ground and just looking at the dirt between my splayed feet. How far is Strambard anyway? At least 18 more miles. Ranok snores, looking between the food parcels we've gotten earlier this morning. He passes me one of the quiches, and I bite into it despondently. That means we have another 40 hours of continuous march. If you can keep up the pace. He emphasizes teasingly, taking a seat beside me, but I don't find it funny. Seeing my mood remaining firmly on the downside, he bumps into my shoulder. Don't worry, it'll get easier with time. We still have at least 8 hours of road to cover today. 8 hours? I exclaim in horror, looking at my ragged shoes with worry. No words can describe how glad I am I've insisted on this improvised footwear. I cannot feel my legs. Cheer up. He pats my cheek with one finger. For now, let's just try to eat and rest. You'll see, before you know it, we'll be setting camp. I lock my defeated gaze with the quiche and take a deep breath. He's right. I take a bite and enjoy the treat Korab has prepared, a crumbly crust with eggy, cheesy goodness speckled with smoked ham and chives. In all fairness, even this exhausting trip beats the nightmare I escaped a scant few hours ago. At least, I have my wolf beside me. I lean onto his shoulder, and we eat the food in silence, exchanging the water skin every few bites. I'm too tired to talk, and no words are needed. It's just him and me. Us. And we're both simply enjoying each other's company. True to his word, the evening comes sooner than I expected. We stopped only one more time, another 4 hours into our journey, dividing it into 3 neat segments. On the third leg of our trek, the sky grew darker and darker with each passing step. The dim light of the day began to fade fast, and we decided to stop for the night. This spot should do nicely. The wolf nods in satisfaction at a little clearing just a few paces off the trail. I look around and agree without conviction. I'm not a camper, so I don't know whether this place is good or not. All I really care about is that we're finally done walking. I throw our luggage onto the ground and plop myself lazily in the grass while he removes his gear. I watch as the wolf scurries about between different bushes. He's collecting various thin, long sticks, piling them up in front of me. Those are for the tent, he explains, pulling out his side sword and cutting off a dry branch of a nearby tree. Once he has all he needs, he nods towards me, asking for help. Reluctantly, I get up, against the wishes of every aching muscle of my body. He uses his blade to dig up a shallow hole and places one end of the stick against it. Hold it like this, he requests, and I nod while he gets another pole and mirrors it with the one I'm supporting. When their top ends meet, The wolf secures them with a rope, effectively creating one side of a triangular frame. Within a few minutes, the supporting structure is ready to receive the cover, and I watch with satisfaction as the wolf fastens the cloth to the ground with metal pins. With the tent set up, Ranok clears a small spot, digging a shallow pit to which he deposits firewood he happened upon. Once the fire is dancing merrily, our camp is set, not thanks to me in any part. But it seems the wolf gives me leeway on account of how exhausted I am. I scooch closer to the flames, drawing as much warmth from them as I can. After an intense workout, a sudden lack of movement makes one incredibly sensitive to the slightest breeze. Ranok takes his time to scan the surrounding area, clearly looking for something. Once he finds his quarry, his muzzle lightens up, and I watch as he measures quite a long branch in his paw, trying to snap it into two. Confident that it's sturdy enough, he pulls it over the fire, and my curiosity intensifies when he then rolls over a massive trunk. What is he up to? I watch Ranok wedge the far end of the branch into the fallen tree and use the rolled trunk to prop it up, creating an arm from which he can suspend the iron pot. The ingenuity of this guy continues to amaze me. When he's satisfied with his contraption, he dusts his paw and looks at me with a smile. So, want some stew? Would I ever? I muse, very much enticed by the prospect of a hot meal. He fills the pot with the remaining water from the skin bag and sets it to boil. I'm still very much bushed, so I lean back and breathe the fresh evening air while the wolf rustles through our backpack. How are you going to make a stew when we didn't bring any ingredients with us? Oh, there's an old scouting trip to get your belly full. Ranok mutters in amusement. Cora has made us some pork and leek pies. He presents me with 2 round pastries, and I look at him in confusion. How's that going to make a stew? Simple. You just dunk them in and let them dissolve. He shrugs, doing exactly as he just explained. I watch him stir the pot with a wooden spoon, breaking the pies apart, while his tail swishes in content. The pastries will give it body, while the gravy and stuffing flavor. The wolf takes a quick sip, nodding in approval. It's not the best thing in the world, but much better than going a night without a warm belly. I'll take your word for it. I smile, pulling in closer and leaning into his furry body. The stew takes a few moments to come around, and once it's boiling and ready, the wolf nudges me gently before I doze off. Mind fetching the bowls? He asks politely, and I nod. With the steaming food served, we sit opposite each other and dig in with wide grins on our faces. The stew smells pretty much like the meat pies it was made from, and the flavor, although a bit bland, is such a welcome sensation. In fact, I enjoy its warmth and thickness the most, and it fills the belly nicely. As I spoon the last portion of the stew, my eyes venture to the speckled sky above. It feels so vast and endless, but above all, alien. I can't fend off this feeling of being stranded somewhere completely foreign. Not a single feature in the sky is familiar. Even the moon seems different now that I look at her closely. The vision I had the other night feels doubly cruel. Everything I knew, everything I had, is gone, most likely forever. What's the matter? The wolf nudges my shoulder, clearly noticing the shift in my mood. It's nothing really. I just suddenly felt incredibly alone. Alone? He raises one brow challengingly, and I shake my head. Sorry, it must sound silly and a bit ungrateful. I cherish your company more than anything in this world. But... He aptly guesses that there's an asterisk, and I sigh heavily. I don't want you to think I'm crazy. Never. He protests, and the reassurance in his voice gives me the courage to say what I meant to say for quite a while now. I don't think I'm from here. Well, of course you aren't. There are no human in Turnen. I shake my head again, this time in a mixture of amusement and frustration at him missing my point. I don't mean the forest, or the whole continent for that matter. You think you're from across the sea? No, I don't think I'm from this world altogether. My eyes meet his surprised gaze with determination, and at first the wolf is taken aback. I allow my words to hang for a moment, and eventually he sets his bowl aside. What makes you say that? The sky, among many other things you wouldn't understand. I flash my brows, looking away in embarrassment. In truth, I'm not really sure how to even go about this verbal madness I'm about to unpack on this poor, unsuspecting wolf. Try me. He flashes his brows right back at me in a taunting manner. I know you see us, for the most part, as backward savages, but astrology is something we're intimately familiar with. It dictates our calendars and helps us navigate. Astronomy. I correct him teasingly, causing the grey male to blink. What? Astrology is more like fortune-telling and stuff. I know what astrology is. And it still deals with knowledge of the stars. You do realize that's pretty much most of Arissa's job, right? He teases right back and forces me to chuckle. There you go, that's better. Turn that frown upside down. My smile widens as the wolf rubs my cheek with his furry paw, banishing the frown that adorned my face just a moment ago. So, what about the sky upsets you so? I don't recognize any of it. I shrug in defeat, looking up towards the sparkling firmament. You say it's early spring. If I were truly home, world-wise, not just the place I was born in, Orion would have been clearly visible in the sky, no matter my location. Orion? It's a name of a constellation, a group of stars that... I know what a constellation is. He growls playfully, rolling his eyes and returning to his meal. Sorry. The most recognizable part of Orion is his belt, 3 bright stars in a line, with the last one slightly off axis. It's not there. In fact, I can't even see the dippers. I assume those are familiar stars to you? The wolf mumbles between each remaining spoonful. I was never any good with stars, but most kids were taught how to recognize the dippers, mainly because at the end of each one you had the northern star. The northern star? It's right there. He points vaguely into a spot high above us, finally cleaning his bowl with the long lapse of his tongue. I allow him to finish, as he seems to be quite hungry, and it was a long day of exhausting trek after all. But once he's done, I look to him expectantly as he takes a thirsty gulp from the wineskin. That's not the Northern Star, at least not the one that I know. Of course it is. What else would it be? It's one of the brightest stars, and the entire celestial sphere revolves around it. That's why it's so invaluable for finding your way. Yeah, I get that. That's how it works for my Northern Star as well. But those two are not the same. Well, maybe the constellations are different because you're on the other side of the globe? This catches me by surprise, and I look at him wide-eyed. Wait, you know that the world is round? Okay, now you're actively trying to be insulting. He scoffs teasingly, taking another long swig of drink to wash down his finished meal, and I shake my hands in protest. No. Sorry if that's how it came across. I'm just... surprised. I know, a knowledgeable savage. The wolf sneers again, and I hang my head in resignation. Anyway, if you're suggesting I'm from the south, you're mistaken. How do you know? 1, I vividly remember being from the northern hemisphere. Your memory is a jumbled mess. I wouldn't trust it that much if I were you. He interrupts, and although he's doing it more in form of another jab, I can't help but concede some merits to his way of thinking. Okay then. 2, my complexion is way off for the southern part of your world. What do you mean by that? Well, I kind of skimmed your books, but I understood that most of the lands down south are scorching hot deserts and rocky wastelands, savannas, and jungles. Fair-skinned humans don't fare well in those areas. I state plainly. Sure, perhaps in my modern globalized world, that's not exactly the case, but I doubt mass migration occurs here in their long, far-away times. People of my skin tone tend to stick to colder climates, temperate at most, Anything warmer than that and the skin becomes tanned. His puzzled expression makes it clear that he doesn't understand what I'm saying, but at the same time, I doubt that he knows much about the skin tones anyways. They're covered with fur from head to toe. They are shielded from the sun. We, on the other hand, only have melanin. I'm definitely from the north, and this is definitely not my sky. I conclude, throwing my hands upwards in resignation. It's not just constellations, though. Some of the stuff up there is completely mental. I mean, I've never seen a red star in my life. For an unknown reason, the wolf visibly shudders at the mention of this oddity. His ears fall flat, and he diverts his gaze away from where I was pointing. That's the ruby eye, and it's better not to pay it much attention. Why? I scoff in amusement at his deflated posture. It's an eye that never blinks, and according to legends, it belongs to the Lord of Nightmares. If you gaze at it for far too long, you give him a chance to peer into your soul and find your darkest fears. That's an odd woven legend. It isn't woven. He shakes his head, looking at me with a rather serious expression. Every creature in Avalon knows to avoid that star. If it's the first thing you see at night, it's a really bad omen. Well then, good thing it wasn't the first thing I saw. From now on, let us pretend it doesn't exist. I smiled gently, patting his paw in agreement. I'm not about to mock his beliefs and customs again. That's pretty much what everyone does. Ranok nearly empties the wineskin, leaving perhaps a small gulp at the bottom of it. He passes it to me as he rubs his muzzle clean, and I decide to humor him. I chug the remaining contents, and once I'm done, I unseal my lips from the bag with a satisfied gasp. I know it sounds weird, but you talking about the stars kinda soothes my nerves. I wouldn't mind if you gave me a crash course. What now? Another of my word choices catches him off guard, and I chuckle. A rundown. A lesson of sorts. Of course. I'd love to. His attitude quickly changes from surprise to that of excitement. The sound of his tail taps bring a smile to my face, and a look as the wolf arches backwards to look towards the sky. Stargazing is one of my favorite pastimes. He croons, lowering himself down onto the ground and patting the spot beside him. Come, lay down next to me. It doesn't take much for me to accept the invitation, and I crawl there, gently scooching myself into his torso. Comfortable? The wolf asks as I rest my head against his biceps and nod. Very well then. As I said, that's the Northern Star. He points again, but this time I pay careful attention without questioning any of this. It's actually the beginning of the Northern Fork. It goes down here and splits in two. I'm sure there's some legend attached to it, but I never paid much attention when the old shaman was teaching us this stuff. I snuggle into his muzzle as he laughs awkwardly, keeping my eye on his clawed fingers still tracing the skies above. On the right side, you have the Northern Crown. This one I know a little better. It is said that it was once a real crown made of silver leaves and diamonds, created by a powerful god as a gift to a beautiful mortal. He hoped to seduce her, but she refused his advances. She chose her own kind and, in effect, death, over deity and immortality. Insulted, the god broke the crown apart, and in a fit of rage, he scattered it over the sky, so that she and her descendants forever would know what they spurned. I like that. It's poetic and dramatic. I mutter in amusement, drawing his momentary attention. Human myths are also like that. I'm not sure if this one's a woven myth, but it's something we tell the pups. Why? Aren't woven myths this melodramatic? Ranok chuckles at my little tease and flexes his muscles slightly. Are you kidding? You should see a woven courtship. Sparks never fail to fly. That I can believe. I let out a subtle laugh, and he smiles back at me. There is undeniable sexual tension in this small exchange, and we both get slightly flustered as we turn our gazes back to the sky. Here on the left, you have the archer. He was set there to protect the crown, so that no mortal could ever claim it. See, his bow is ever drawn. Huh. He trails his fingers to the opposite side of the sparkling dome. The clump of stars over there is called a spiderweb. I'm not really aware of any myth relating to it, but I'm sure there are a few. What about this one over there? I point to a glimmering collection of stars that seem almost to tease me with their beauty. Huh. What? I ask, confused by his sudden laugh and now quite a telling smirk. That's the Great Wolf. Get out. No, really. Curious he drew your attention. His continuing smirk intensifies and I blush slightly. Oh no, two of us can play at this game. I lean in closer, pressing my body slightly harder against his form, and muster the most seductive whisper I possibly can. Seems I have an affinity for great wolves. I could swear I felt a shudder shoot through his body, and at the corner of my eye I can see his bulge push against the stitching of his pants. Damn, he's cute when he's flustered, but I decide not to push it. Instead, I return to my neutral position, looking up into the blue expanse as the wolf clears his throat. Anyway, it's a celestial form of the Great Wolf. Whenever he's not roaming the world, he looks upon it from up there and guards the heavens. And what about the bright smudge traversing the sky? I ask, regarding what I assume to be their galaxy. It looks so much like the Milky Way, it almost makes me believe this might be home after all. We call it the White River, and there, at its center, is the House of Dawn. He points to a radiant collection of stars. It's supposed to be a celestial court made of lights, where some believe the deserving dead go. Some, but not wolves, right? No, we firmly believe in the final darkness. But I understand why some kin follow the faith of light, believing that some part of them returns to the House of Dawn. It must be comforting. It sure is. I mutter, not really certain where I stand on religion right now. Then again, everything does point for me to be somehow reincarnated. Sometimes I even doubt my own conviction, especially when seeing the evening star or morning star beginning their journey from there. Evening star? There are two stars brighter than any others appearing in the sky. They seem to venture to and fro the House of Dawn. I'm not sure if it's not the same star really, just showing at different times. But it is there. Is it out tonight? I look around trying to find it, but come up empty-handed. No, it doesn't always appear. The evening star shows up in the evening, and the morning star at dawn. They also don't move like the rest. Instead of slowly rotating on the sky, they seem to be passing by. It might be a planet then. What now? His confusion is so sudden and so surprising that I choke on a chuckle. You know, a planet. Like this one. What do you mean? What's a planet? You know that the world is round, but you don't have a concept of a planet? My voice might sound more taunting than I intended, but I'm still completely thrown off by his remark. Thankfully, the wolf doesn't take it too seriously and dons an equally mocking tone. I'm sorry, my lord, that I wasn't educated in the Tigiri Academy. I only learned what's useful for my backward savage survival. Oh, knock it off. I elbow him slightly and proceed to answer his question more thoughtfully. A planet is a world, just like this one. Well, maybe not like this one, exactly. Most of them are barren and devoid of life, empty worlds floating in space. He sounds unconvinced, looking up in silence until his curiosity gets the better of him. But why would they glow? It reflects the light off the sun, just like the moon does. If you look at this world from out there, it would also shine, but instead of white, it would look like a blue marble. I can almost picture him following this up with "how do you know?" But instead, the wolf falls silent, and we both gaze at the emptiness above us for a while. I think that he is looking at the night sky with a different perspective now, and soon my suspicion is confirmed. So, you say that there are other worlds out there? Yep, thousands of them within the visible sky, and millions further beyond. That's some insane stuff. His voice is filled with awe, while his gaze doesn't break from the glittering stars above. He doesn't seem to be questioning anything I tell him. It feels good to be trusted like this. Yeah. I muse through a smile and snuggle deeper into his muscle, only to hear him snort. Not as insane as you claiming to be from out there. You would be surprised at the level of insane I'm willing to entertain here. My chuckle joins his merriment, and he murmurs at me teasingly. Okay, surprise me. At first, I'm not sure how I would even start to explain my predicament, but I quickly realized that his affinity for astronomy might be the best gateway for us reaching an understanding. The world I come from is a part of a set. He croons seductively, but I simply continue. 9 planets, in fact, or 8 and a planetoid if you're one of those annoying know-it-alls. The wolf raises his brow higher and higher with each passing word, and eventually it leaves no doubt that he's struggling to keep a straight muzzle. Okay, I can see your expression, and I really need you to know that I am not making this up. There are 9 planets in the solar system: Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. To my surprise, naming them fills me with a sudden joy and hope, almost as if saying that out loud reaffirmed my belief in what's real. I'm not insane. I remember this. Apart from Earth, none of those planets can sustain life. The closest planetary system to the solar one is Alpha Centauri, and as far as we know, there are no life-sustaining planets there either. And this is where my mood plummets, the dreadful realization. This means that wherever we are is far beyond the world. I know. At first, we stay silent, both gazing at the endless possibilities of different worlds suspended above in the sea of darkness. But the longer the silence lasts, the more unsettled I become. I look to the wolf who doesn't break his sight from the stars, and eventually, I rub his chest fluff to solicit a reaction. Ranok? You're saying? What exactly? That you're from beyond the stars? It's clear he's unable to comprehend this, and now that he vocalizes his confusion, I feel even more lost as to what I'm trying to communicate here. It all sounds bloody mad. That's why I struggle to talk to you about this. I don't know what I'm saying. Our joint awkwardness lingers, but only for a short while. The wolf finally adjusts his position so that his torso is more leaned towards me, and so that he can embrace me gently. I'm not saying that I don't believe you, although I have to suspend my belief quite a lot here. He mutters uneasily. There are humans on Avalon, you know that, right? You might be just confused. Maybe you studied myths and legends, and after what happened to you, they got jumbled up with your memories. It's clear he's weighing his words carefully as not to offend me, and I feel bad for putting him in such an awkward situation. If I were in his shoes, I'd feel exactly the same. Wouldn't that make more sense than you being from, what, out there? The thing is, I don't even know if it's out there. I shrug equally uncomfortably. As a big red star would have been quite a memorable part of my nightly stargazing session. The fact that there are humans here makes it even more confusing. I don't blame you for struggling to understand what I'm saying. Even I can't wrap my head around this. I can begin to imagine your torment. He brushes my cheek with his paw in a comforting manner. It's been driving me insane those last few days, but I didn't even know who to talk to without coming across as deranged. You're the only one I can trust. Thank you, and I will try my best to prove worthy of it. But... He pauses, looking back towards the sky. I'm glad you didn't speak to anyone about this. Well, I was considering talking to Verissa. By Aluna, I'm glad you didn't. Anyone but her. What? Why? She is a dear friend, but she's also a shaman. Ranok states heavily. The tribe's safety will always take precedence. If you tell her any of this, She would have gotten spooked and dug up some obscure scrolls or an obscure legend that would paint you as something bad or foreboding. I'd rather have her stay focused on the task of protecting you, without dividing her loyalties. Seems a little bit underhanded. I don't conceal how uncomfortable it makes me to hide stuff like this from her. It is... I won't lie about that, but she only protected your life so far because she believes you're innocent and helpless. What you told me not only sounds bad, but incredibly dangerous. How so? It's a level of arcane knowledge that approaches a magister level. Everyone is already quite convinced you're a Tigeri noble. Thanks to you. I interrupt grumpily, but he ignores it. If they suspected you have anything to do with their Magus class, that you studied the hidden arts, it would mean a death sentence for you. So far I'm facing a death sentence for merely existing, so this isn't exactly any news at this point. I'm being serious. Why? Were the other warnings just for laugh? I jest, but his stern look quickly drives my levity away, and I just shrug in defeat. I'm no mage. I don't have any magical powers. Not all mages wield raw magic. Many only possess ancient knowledge, but both are equally as dangerous. The wolf groans, closing his eyes. No mage can enter Turnip without a royal warrant, and without clearly declaring himself as such. If you'd be accused of being one, it would mean espionage and potentially cause a major diplomatic scandal. Surely this could be easily verifiable, just asking for my credentials would be enough. He gives me a rather condescending look, and I raise my hands. What? You honestly can't be this naive. Tigeron would deny you being a mage whether you were one or not. Who in their right mind would admit to a captured spy? Damn. He's right. World or ages apart, one thing never changes. States never admit to any wrongdoings. But with that, another thought enters my mind, one I was trying to suppress for quite a while, but it was always there. I finally decide to voice it. Do you think I am one? What? He blurts out in panic. No, I didn't mean it like that. I know, but it made me wonder. Do you think I could be one? What are you saying? Finally, the wolf pulls away from me, slightly startled, and we both sit up, looking at each other intently. Can you just answer my question? I plead, and he finally concedes with a silent nod. No, I don't think you are. I think you're just really confused. Believe me, I have trouble understanding any of this myself. The beast folk, the woven language part. I can't even wrap my head around magic being real, but... I sigh heavily, fearful of what I'm about to suggest next. That being said, what if I was a spy, a Tigeri spy, but with his memory wiped clean, perhaps through a spell of some sort? Why would you say that? He tilts his head in bewilderment, and I decide to continue this wave of honesty between us. No secrets, I cannot bear to hold them on my own any longer. Sometimes I hear voices. They don't make much sense. It's a jumbled mess most of the time, and it feels like someone's toying with me. I realize how this might come across, so I immediately add a correction. I don't lose control or anything. No motor skills, so it's not like something's taking over. Not in a possession sense, at least. The deluge of words becomes more erratic as I continue, so I cut it off short with a very panicked look. For a moment, Ranok looks at me with a troubled expression, but it becomes immediately apparent he's more worried about me than anything else. He takes hold of my hand and squeezes it firmly in a comforting manner. I probably shouldn't have said anything. I'm glad you did. If you need help, please, let me know. Because if you don't tell me, I won't know how to help. Don't bottle things up, especially not things like this. I nod and sigh in slight relief. I'm glad to have him as a companion. He's really my anchor. All this talk of Tigeri and how my knowledge and such fits with their way of life, I think it started to get to me. If they use magic and are as spy-happy as you seem to believe, what if they wiped my memory and I'm just a walking dummy? I don't think that's likely. The wolf scoffs in an oddly confident way. How do you know? I probably shouldn't say this, but... He scratches his neck fluff uncomfortably, pulling his muzzle down in the process. Ugh, fuck. Okay, now you're making me nervous. I take hold of his paw, which is still comforting me, looking intently into his eyes and finally causing the wolf to sigh. We did consider this already. In fact, it was our first instinct once I brought you home. What? The bandages that Verissa burned? Well, that's not the only thing she did with them. As a shaman, she's responsible for the physical and spiritual safety of our people. She has ways of detecting magic and enchantments. He mutters uncomfortably, and I start to realize where this is headed. She tested your blood, and there was not a shred of arcane in it. Any spell, specifically as powerful as a mind-altering one, would leave a trace behind. Whatever happened to you was purely physical, and anything that's happening to you now is psychological. No magic involved. He smiles encouragingly, but I'm still not entirely convinced. You might have studied in Tigeron. In fact, of that I am absolutely sure, but you were not involved with any magic. That's how we got Vol to finally shut up. There was no blood ritual, just mauling that left not a single wound on your body. The wolf finishes his awkward explanation and looks back at the stars with a worried expression. I, on the other hand, try to process this whole mess and am as stumped as I was before we even started this conversation. None of it makes any sense, and the more I'm trying to solve this mystery, the less I understand it. I know I cannot convince him that I'm not from this world. In fact, before the encounter with the other mother, I was slowly conceding it all to my imaginings. But I know it's all real. Both places exist, and somehow I managed to bridge the gap. Even if he says it was without magic, it had to happen somehow. Ugh. Eventually, I simply sigh and plop myself onto the ground, stretching my arms behind my head in the grass. Fucking weird. You're not being mad? About what? You being careful? I scoff teasingly. If I had found a naked twink covered in blood on my doorstep, I'd run every fucking check possible before even considering bringing that shit inside. Kinda speaks volumes of me, now that I think about it. I let myself die at my own threshold. The wolf laughs and rests himself beside me, looking at me with his kind green eyes. You're not that bad. You seem keen to help others. What makes you say that? I saw it first paw with the Nell, and you've also made two unlikely friends in the short span of time. Vol and Trist aren't very friendly. Whatever you did, it resonated with them. He pats his bicep, welcoming me to rest my head there again, an invitation I eagerly take. You're a good soul, Kaelin. I know this stuff is getting messy, and it must be much harder for you to deal with when your memory is the way it is, but all you need is to remember is who you are. That's all that matters. The rest is garnish. Just follow the compass. The wolf pats my chest and my heart dances to his tune. No matter how messed up the situation or how abstract is our conversation, you always manage to bring me down to a place of calm. I don't think I've ever known anyone like that. I'm glad to have a positive effect on your mental state. It's lovely to see him smile like this, and we spend the next few moments in silence, just admiring the sky above. Eventually, I begin to feel the call of Nyx, and once I yawn softly, causing Ranok to take a large, exaggerated one, I decide to ask a simple question. Would you mind if we slept right here? I know we went through all the trouble to set up camp, but the sky is so beautiful tonight. Of course not. You're reading my mind, Moondrop. He winks at me, pulling me into a tighter embrace. I'm not saying I'm going to sleep this very moment, but I'd like to just observe the stars for now. If I drift off, I hope you'll sleep well. I know I will. With you in my arms, always. He sniggers, and we both remain silent, our eyes sleepily wandering to the glimmering expanse. Somewhere out there is someone like me, slowly drifting off to sleep in an alien world in the arms of a lovable stranger. There has to be. Billions of stars with infinite possibilities. Maybe among them is my own sun. There is no way back. Perhaps. But if that's the case, I'm happy to be wherever I am. Just me and my wolf, with the endless sky as our nighttime canopy. To be continued. Ah. That's why I wanted to leave this episode as its own little thing. Obviously at the end, because it's the end. Um, because it's all like lovey-dovey and stuff, the name tree scene and then the scene with the stars. I didn't feel that I could leave it at the end of the previous episode. But anyways, that was nice. I like stargazing myself, and I really want to buy one of those telescopes that has like the little thing so you could connect it to your computer or at least to your phone. And I know you can buy like a little clip thingy, but I want one specifically for that though. But they're very expensive, and I don't have the money for that. But yeah. Mm, so it was also kind of funny to have them have the title of the story in the story when they said what did they say, something about it being far beyond the world. It was hilarious when the first time that I saw it when I was reading it by myself, and I had to show it to my friends. They're like, hey, look, they finally said the title. uh but anyways, so yeah, that's the end of the first part of chapter 8. So there is more to chapter 8. I'm assuming it ends when they finally reach Strambard. So since it's 80 hours trip, I'm assuming we're gonna be seeing a little bit of the outer pack too, maybe. Um, and, I, I'm pretty sure they're not gonna be super happy that Ranok is traveling with a human, even if the human is his companion, quote unquote, slave. Um, but yeah, there's probably gonna be plenty of shenanigans until they reach Strambard. But I am looking forward to them actually getting there and seeing a tiger because I like tigers, and not just because of Bearwulff. But yeah, maybe a little bit because of Bearwulff. But anyways, so what are your expectations on this journey? What do you think is gonna happen in the next update? Do you think they're gonna get ambushed or something? I'm I'm expecting that too because they're carrying a lot of gold, and given the brazenness of the wolves from the other um tribe, I guess. Uh, I'm assuming there's gonna be shenanigans happening in the woods that they that at least Ranok was not expecting. I'm also expecting the whispers to try to be a bit more chatty and try to get at Kaelin again because the whole little illusion thing was pretty brazen of it. So it's probably gonna keep trying. And let's see what else. Well, I guess that's it's kind of nice how they how Kael had like the little constellations and stuff like that. It's a little again, it's back to my love of the stars and stuff like that. Just to see all the clothes I have of NASA. And but yeah, anyways, thank you all for watching slash listening. If you would like to play Far Beyond the World yourself, you can find it over on itch, or you can also find a link to it um on Kael Tiger's Twitter page, since he links directly to it. And if you would like to support the project, I will also link down for Patreon, where you can get early access to the next build once it's finished. I think you can also see certain like little works in progress things. I'm not entirely sure because I haven't joined the Patreon yet. I might next year, but yeah. Um, so I guess that's it for now, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye bye.